I'm Jeannie.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Nikki from Tyrion's Landing,
a podcast member of the GonnaGeek Network.
Just like the one you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready, because geekiness begins in
3,
2,
1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're witty.
He loves him some Katy Perry because she kissed a girl and she liked it.
They're crazy.
I like Nickelback personally, but, I'm the fuddy-duddy who likes episode 1.
And sometimes I leave you wondering, what the
I'm pretty sure that here we were starting the hashtag movement, Bring Back Slave Ferrell.
GonnaGeek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 193 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast show. Wow, been a long time. I'm Stephen Jondrew, and with me, of course, is the one and only Stargate pioneer.
It's awesome to be back, even though we're not on Monday. But if you're listening to this later, you don't care. It's still awesome to be back, and we've got a great show for you tonight. And I am not the only other co-host here.
No, you are not, because I'm also here with myself. No, that's not true. We have a full slate today. That's right. We also have with us the one and only Chris Ferrell.
I was told there would be strippers here. Where are the strippers? I'm very confused.
And in that fourth square, we do indeed have the verified, hashtag verified, Cody Gough.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me? I was busy tweeting something.
Were you
Wait a minute.
Ooh.
Is it verified, hashtag verified Cody Gough? I'm confused now.
It's hashtag verified.codygough.tumblr.com.
That's
Are
right.
there strippers there?
For all of you newcomers to the show, Cody Gough is from the GonnaGeek Network. He has a wonderful show that he co-hosts on secondary role with a guy named John Martin called Game Life Balance US.
I'm sorry, secondary role?
Aren't you the secondary on that?
Yeah, I gotta go.
Bye, Cody.
No, Cody and John do Game Life Balance US, and Cody is back, but he is our only hashtag verified Twitter user.
Yep, that's how I roll. And I just tweeted and I mentioned at GonnaGeek because we're at podcasting at GonnaGeek.hashtag.tumblr.com. Woo!
Well,
Did you just Ric Flair us?
Yeah, that's the kind of episode this is going to be. I can tell before we even started recording, but here we are.
Wait, we were supposed to start recording?
wait, is this a podcast?
This is a netcast, I've been told. We don't use the term podcast. Netcast is the best term for what we do.
All right.
Wow.
Well, this netcast is a netcast, which is part of the GonnaGeek Network. And also on the GonnaGeek Network is an amazing show called Better Podcasting. And on that show, in the latest episode number 80, Stargate pioneer and Stephen Jondrew tell you all about why, if you're a hobby podcaster, just don't pay attention to those podcasting conferences. They're just not for you. Check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. I'm just pausing for effect, that's all. All right, let's go ahead and talk some news. All right, so in the news this week, we have a bunch of different things, and unfortunately, we're going to start off with a somewhat sad news point. And this is a sad news point for a couple of reasons. But we've talked a long time about how the Justice League movie coming up is questionable. We don't know what's going to happen. There's been a track record of DC movies that have not hit the mark. And that's where the DC movies have lied. Now, we also talked briefly before about how Joss Whedon was allegedly rumored to be coming to the DC universe. Now, you might know Mr. Whedon from a small little indie flick called The Avengers.
What's that?
What's that?
Movie, the superheroes part of it. They all get together, fight some.
It didn't make much money, just
Fight
like
some
$1 billion.
crime. Yeah.
Is that with Sean Connery?
I believe it
And
was.
Chad Kroger, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Chad Kroger, Sean Connery, and Uma Thurman. So the three of them did this movie called Avengers, and it made a bit of money. So people thought, well, that's kind of weird because that's Marvel. So why would you head over to DC? And yes, no, he is going to be taking over the end of the Justice League filming. Now, the reason why it's sad news is because the director, Zack Snyder, has indeed had a loss of a family member. So
It's a tragedy, really, what happened. Do not wish this. As much as I've trash talked Zack Snyder on the movies that he's made, nobody deserves what happened here. They lost their daughter unexpectedly, and it's no good. I did not. If this is the way that Zack had to leave the Justice League movie, it was horrible that it had to happen this way, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's terrible.
yeah, and it's obviously there's a couple of questions here, because that's very sad, very unfortunate. I agree with you. I wish it on nobody. And from a creative perspective, it's also, I feel like it's a bit of, it almost corners Joss Whedon to a degree, because, he's going to come in, he's going to finish it. But obviously, given the circumstances, I think he's more so going to feel compelled to really finish with Snyder's vision than, like, let's say that it was different circumstances and all of a sudden they brought in Whedon to change it. I think we would see more Whedon style on the movie. So I don't really know what to think about this. I wanted to make sure to mention it because it is a big thing. We've slammed on DC time and time again, and we talked about how it was kind of hopeful Whedon coming in, but this is just not the circumstances that we wanted to bring him in.
Certainly not the circumstances you want to see Joss Whedon jump into this, but the thing is, how nice is it for DC in this case to be like, okay, we know Zack needs to spend some time with his family. That's the right thing to do. We'll just go and talk to this guy who directed a $1 billion Marvel superhero movie, and maybe he can fill those shoes. So it's a nice serendipitous thing for them that they have someone who has a little bit of experience in the superhero drama with specifically team up movies. They can come and pick this up. But someone said this on Twitter, and it kind of followed along how I felt. It's not a huge Zack Snyder film, but they said, I'd much rather see Zack Snyder direct the Justice League film than see what happened to him happen to him.
I agree. 100%. Cody, you were going to say something on this. Go ahead.
No, was I?
Oh, it looked like you were going to. Sorry.
I look like I'm about to talk at all times because I want people to think I'm about to talk, but it's really a trap.
It's a trap.
So in any case, it'll be interesting to see Whedon coming into the DC universe. I think I said it before. I think there's a lot of potential with him there, and I hope that when this is all said and done, that there ends up being an avenue that Whedon can actually, like, a movie that he'll be able to really put his creative flair on, because I just don't see him really changing too much of the Snyder vision.
He's still signed for Batgirl, and one of the things that Zack Snyder mentioned in one of the interviews is that he'd brought Joss Whedon in the last couple months or so to have him rewrite some of the scenes in Justice League.
Oh, interesting. I didn't hear that.
So Whedon's been involved somewhat in Justice League, and remember his deal, which he talked to Kevin Feige about, and Kevin Feige's like, you don't need to call and get my blessing, but thank you, was he was going to go and do a Batgirl movie, and nothing has come out that said he's not doing that yet. So my assumption is Batgirl is still happening just after Justice League.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize. For some reason, I thought that Batgirl was rumored. I didn't realize that it was solidified.
It's a done deal, was my understanding. Perhaps I understood incorrectly.
You're usually right. I'm usually wrong. So we'll go ahead and say that Chris.
What? Say again?
Chris.
I was right.
Chris Ferrell is the greatest person on this podcast named Chris Ferrell. I've said it first.
It's
Thank
that
you.
individual also an award-winning podcaster called Chris Ferrell?
Why not? But let's go ahead and go on to our next news point here, which is apparently NASA, its newest concept Mars Rover, it's tanked.
Have you guys seen a picture of this thing? If you haven't, bring up the news story right now. This thing looks gnarly. As the writer of the Space.com article, Tariq Malik, who's the managing editor of Space.com, said, it looks like the Martian met a tank with a Knight Rider obsession and spawned a Mars car that runs on awesome. And it was built for the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex as part of its Summer Mars program. It will be used for the purposes of education and inspiration. According to another article over on the Business Insider, the concept rover was designed by Mark Parker of Parker Brothers Concepts. I wonder if that's like Parker Brothers Games. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. And it is roughly comes in at a weight of 5,000 pounds, which incidentally is the average curb weight of a 2017 GMC Sierra 1500 4x4.
How serendipitous.
Yeah, it's just amazing that a Mars concept rover for the Kennedy Space Center is the same curb weight as a GMC Sierra 4x4. So therefore, Mars should be sending GMC Sierra 4x4s not only to us as sponsors of the GonnaGeek.com show, but also to Mars to rover the surface of Mars. I'm just saying.
Okay, so you missed the mark on this. I know you said that it looked like a tank. You talked about it. No, it looks like the damn Batmobile from the Nolan films. That's what it looks like.
The Tumbler. That's what you're talking. Yeah, I said Tariq Malik said that's what it looks like. I did not say that. That's what Tariq Malik said. And I said that's what Tariq Malik said. So you misinterpreted it, Mr. Producer. By the way, a quick look at the visitor complex's summer schedule revealed a tantalizing clue. The rover is part of the complex's new astronaut training experience attraction that's opening in the fall. But wait, there's more. The rover is not staying in Florida this summer. If you live anywhere on the East Coast, I would look this schedule up because it's looking like the rover is hitting the road up and down the East Coast. So if you want to see awesome, you got to go see this. It is awesome looking.
All right, Cody, I want to ask you, when are you going to build yourself one of these? I know in Chicago you need it.
There's several in my storage unit. I just haven't felt the need for a tank recently.
Recently,
Wait,
so it means you have at some point.
You live in Chicago and you say you don't need a tank? You are delusional. You need a tank.
You think it's bad now? Wait till we're under martial law, which has been threatened several times by the current administration. I'm just waiting for it. Waiting for it.
Is it just like martial law because you're there? Is there a correlation between the two?
I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny. Look, the security clearance that I have for my storage unit does not apply to this entire conversation. I can't be broadcasting the things that I keep in the dark that may or may not go bump in the night and may or may not be able to drive around Mars in a tank-like fashion to wage war on extraterrestrials that may or may not have been identified there.
Who said we were going to war? We just needed to roam the surface of Mars.
Like I said, security clearance that I have for my secret storage unit that has many things to do with the third planet. Wait.
So
fourth. Wait.
It's actually not that far of a stretch, though, for you not to be able to talk about the things in your closet that go bump in the night. Because I know SP, because we try to keep somewhat family, can't talk about his things in his closet that go bump in the night.
Wait a minute. I just want to point out to the entire internet that Cody does not realize which planet is the third rock from the sun.
Obviously, that was Pluto, because that was the one that third rock from the sun went to, right?
You guys don't remember the mnemonic that was? My very extraordinary mother just made us 9 pizzas.
Yeah, and now it doesn't work anymore. So now it's
just made us 9.
It made us 9. This is 9 what? Just leave it hanging there. You can't leave us hanging like that.
Just made us nothing like Pluto. I said my very eager mother. What'd you say was eager?
Extraordinary mother.
See, I knew it as my very educated mother.
That's one I've heard also.
Yeah. And you know why? Because up in Canada, we know how to say the big words.
No, you know what?
You said extraordinary.
Yeah, we're all out of date. It should be my very empowered mother. All right? Hashtag feminism, hashtag 2017.
Hashtag SJW.
Fair point, Cody. Fair point.
Anything less is frankly sexist and regressive. And we have
Says a show
no place for
of
that.
4 white men, all age 30 and up.
All right, and that's going to go ahead and wrap up the GonnaGeek.com show forever. Don't bother coming back.
We're done. It's a wrap. Chris killed the show.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on from this mystery tank that may or may not reside in Cody's apartment. We had something really interesting that I think Cody was going to actually perform a rendition of right now.
Is it time for my news segment?
It is time for your news point.
That was a seamless transition, or would have been if I hadn't stepped on it by asking if that was the transition. But I actually think the transitions are better when you call them out. So I'm just going to actually spend the entire segment talking about the transition itself, which will then make it a superior transition.
And I'm going to say how wrong you are, because if you were just reading the bar on the right-hand side, you would know which news point was next.
Oh, there's a bar on the right-hand side.
All right, Cody, what do you have for your news?
Just kidding. This is only my 4th time doing this. So apparently, the King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. Have any of you seen this documentary?
No, I have not.
No.
None of you have seen it? Oh my God, this shocks me. Okay, so A King of Kong, The Fistful of Quarters, A Fistful of Quarters came out 10 years ago. It's a documentary about basically a rivalry between two gamers that try to capture the world record high score for the arcade game Donkey Kong. Now, that sounds kind of interesting or whatever. It is a phenomenal documentary. It is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. The characters are incredibly entertaining, and if you've not seen it, I absolutely recommend it. It's so funny and smart and charming. And even if you know nothing about video games and you're not into video games at all, you need to see A King of Kong. So this comes out 10 years ago. It primarily focuses on a rivalry of a kind of newcomer to the scene with, I think, borderline obsessive compulsive disorder, trying to break the highest score. And this guy, Billy Mitchell, who holds the highest score world record in lots of classic arcade games, Donkey Kong being one of them. And the really crazy characters. And apparently the director, Seth Gordon, now wants to make it into a musical. So a stage musical, yeah. And the director, Gordon, is actually, his name is Seth Gordon. He's actually working on the new Baywatch reboot, which I didn't know. He also did Horrible Bosses, I think was the other name, the other movie he's kind of known for from 2011.
Is it Horrible Bosses or Horrible Bosses 2?
Horrible Bosses. Is there a Horrible Bosses 2?
Yeah.
They did make a sequel,
they did make
yes.
a sequel, yeah.
No, he's only responsible for the original, which featured the guy from Arrested Development, Jason Bates, no, right? No, Jason Bates,
Bateman.
right?
Jason Bates is one, and Jennifer Aniston is
Jason
the horrible
Bateman.
boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, excellent. Thanks for filling in that one. But anyway, yeah, Seth Gordon was doing a interview about the Baywatch reboot and mentioned that they're thinking about doing it. There's a lot of melodrama. The characters are musicians, and the music of the games can be interweaved. And I guess that they already have 15-ish songs that they have developed for it, and they're gonna make it into a stage thing, probably, possibly. And I'm actually... Well, I don't know. Go ahead. What, Chris, were you going to say?
No, I think it's interesting. I like the idea of taking something like this and putting a twist on it of a musical. It's interesting to me. It's kind of cool. It's not like terrible like the SpiderMan musical was in my mind, but
I don't understand why you would take something that is not really of musical origin and add music to it. Like, I don't know anybody... I don't know any reason you would ever add music to a production, especially like if it was a podcast or something.
yeah.
Well,
yeah, like you did on GonnaGeek 185, the GonnaGeek GonnaGleek special.
Whoa. Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but if you want to bring it up, we can just talk about my master creativity. If you want to go there.
What I want to talk
Encore.
What I want to talk about before Cody goes on is why the hate for the Baywatch reboot. Man, that's The Rock.
No,
That
I have
is
no hate.
The president in 2020, The Rock.
Exactly, because this podcast is timeless. So former president Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, no, my tone of voice, I think, came from the fact that I just didn't realize it was the same guy that did this documentary about Donkey Kong 10 years ago is directing the Baywatch reboot, and that's just kind of funny to me. But the way Baywatch reboot is going to be amazing. Clearly, The Rock, anything The Rock does is gold, obviously. So all I have to say about this, what's weird and funny about this musical parody is that there was a musical parody of The King of Kong performed at the New York and Hollywood Fringe Festivals in 2014. So if you Google King of Kong's musical, that's actually one of the top Google results, and you can read about that there. So they're not to be confused, but I don't know much about that one. But it's interesting that this particular story has lent itself to musical reinterpretation now multiple times. At least it's interesting to me. But anyway, I enjoy musicals. I've seen the Book of Mormon, which is one of the funniest live things I've ever seen in my life.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it was expensive, believe me.
It's okay, man.
But it was worth every dollar. Literally, if you have to pay $200 for a ticket, pay $200 for a ticket because you will never laugh so hard.
I would totally do it. The girlfriend got to see it when they were in Pittsburgh a couple years back, and I did not, sadly. So next time they're on the traveling tour, I'm going.
Absolutely worth every dollar. But anyway, I'm kind of excited for it. I would probably go see it. Hopefully the songs are good, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so what you're telling me is this is not about an ape? This is not about King Kong the musical?
Little different.
No.
Little different.
I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed.
You wanted a dancing monkey?
I mean, maybe they'll put somebody in a gorilla suit. if they take it because they've got to take it a bit. You have to understand. You have to see the documentary. The director gets it. He gets the humor in the characters, and there's humor in the reality that the lives they live is so ridiculous. Beating Donkey Kong and getting one of the highest scores, it takes about 6 hours for a run, and you can't pause an arcade game. So the entire thing is insanity to a degree. There's some degree of just, you're not a normal person if you pursue this. It's like a sport combined with perfectionism combined with just weirdness, and it's wonderful. I think it lends itself. There's plenty of good characters. So come back and judge it after you've seen the documentary.
All right. Well, after that, Cody will develop the King Kong the musical.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that point up here. And if you want to check that out, you can take a search. It's all over the internet. I searched about this beforehand, and it's kind of crazy how many people are talking about this. It's odd.
Cody's King Kong musical. I'll fund it. Put it on GoFundMe. I'll do it.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk some Tom Hardy here. What's up with Tom Hardy?
So Tom Hardy, a name you might be familiar with some other properties. I don't know. He might have bane some guy by the name of Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know if you heard of him. Well, he has a new gig coming up. Kind of came out of nowhere, but it came out over the weekend that Tom Hardy is going to be in Sony's Venom movie in the title role. Hollywood Reporter has stated also that Zombieland director Ruben Fleischer is in talks to helm the film. Here's where it gets interesting. Let's go to Sony's official Twitter account for how they announced the news. They said, Tom Hardy is Eddie Brock in Venom, the upcoming film from Sony's Marvel Universe, releasing October 5th, 2018. Production starts this fall. So what sounds a little strange about that tweet to anyone else?
Sony's Marvel Universe.
There you go. Sony's Marvel Universe. So for those that aren't familiar, Sony and Marvel made a deal because they realized, you know what makes money? Superhero movies that aren't crappy. So we're going to set it up so that Spider-Man can exist in the MCU and in our own Sony movies. But we're going to collaborate on these things. Well, now it looks like Sony's decided, well, since Marvel helped us kickstart this character, we're just going to go down our own path and we're going to do a Venom movie taking place in our Marvel universe, is the way that seems worded to me. So the real question is, do we have any connection here with I forgot the actor's name, Tom Holland, excuse me, portraying Spider-Man in a Venom movie? I don't know, but
well, I'm
uncomfortable.
What I want is Tom Hiddleston to also get a part, so we can just be lots of Toms. That's all that I want.
I see what you did there.
This is okay. Serious? No, this is everything that I feared with. Everything that I feared with the half deal with Spider-Man was this crap show potentially happening. I hope that this is just like out there to make us all talk about it, but this is exactly what I feared when Marvel didn't get the full rights.
The problem is, for those that aren't aware of the character of Venom, Venom came around from the Secret Wars they did in the late 80s or the 80s to basically sell toys. It's an alien symbiote that bonded with Spider-Man, gave him the black suit for a couple years, and then sort of started to twist Spider-Man into being evil and mean and kind of a bad guy. Eventually, they separated him from the symbiotic suit, and it joined with Eddie Brock and became the anti-hero of the 90s and the early 2000s. Venom is an incredibly popular character. That's why Sony wants to make a movie with him. The question is, how do you do a Venom movie when his origin is built around Spider-Man? I mean, you could skip the origin story in this movie, I guess, but still the core motivation of Venom for a long time was, Peter Parker, you spurned me. I'm pissed about it. I want revenge.
All I know is that I want some emo Parker. That's all that I want.
I was trying not to mention Spider-Man 3 because it's so bad. So bad.
Oh.
The character Venom evolved recently in the all-new, all-different universe into Venom Space Knight, and then they have since reverted back to normal Venom with the Marvel Now universe. But this Venom Space Knight universe was pretty cool. You still had the good versus bad with the symbiote, but overall it was a well-done run, and I enjoyed that to be my introduction to the Venom character in the comics. So if they can pull off Space Knight with the Venom movie, that would be awesome. And oh, by the way, for another Tom, why don't we just add Tom Cruise to the movie?
Don't forget Tom Hanks, the vice president in 2020. But in all seriousness, the Space Knight stuff would be really cool, but that is all Flash Thompson, not Eddie Brock. So I don't know where they're going with this. But it's kind of tough, like I said, to do a Venom story without Spider-Man, because I don't know if they're going to be able to make Tom Holland appear in that. I would assume they could if they wanted to, but then you're getting confusing to the fans. Okay, Spider-Man exists in both these worlds, but Venom only exists in the Spider-Man world because we're not going to cross him over with the Avengers time frame. That just sounds really confusing, especially when you think about the fact that the Spider-Man movie is being built on the fact that, hey, Iron Man's in this movie too. Don't forget, it's part of our universe. Iron Man's here. So you've got to be very careful about splitting things off into their own world.
You know what? We should bring in Tom Brokaw. That's who we should have.
Tom Brokaw.
Who cares if the Iron Man is in this movie? Aunt May got hot. That's what I want to see in this movie.
Yeah, Aunt May's hot. Marissa Tomei's hot.
To me, the problem is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is fun, and the Sony, whatever they're doing, you're not allowed to have fun. Nothing is allowed to be fun. Right? It's the Sony Marvel melodramatic universe.
Okay, what does Sony have now again? What does Sony actually like full on own in the way of
Spider-Man.
comics? I thought there was one other property they still had.
No, that's Fox.
That's Fox.
I thought the same thing yesterday and I got corrected. Fox has the X-Men, Universal has Namor, and Sony has Spider-Man.
How would you like to be
Sinister
Universal?
And they also have the Hulk's individual movie rights in Universal.
Oh.
What?
So if you did the Hulk the solo movie with Ed Norton was a Universal Studios movie. So if that's why you haven't seen the Hulk in a solo flick, is because the MCU can't do a solo Hulk movie.
Well, then that's that. I see them sneaky sneakersons.
Wow.
That's why he's
Also,
in Thor Ragnarok.
I stand corrected. I didn't mean. I meant that in the Fox Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're not allowed to have fun.
Yeah. So Sony gets a little bit of crap here, and some of it's fair, some of it's not. Like the Sam Raimi movies, the first two were awesome. The third one suffered from a lot of studio involvement. Be like, hey, we want Venom in this. Put Venom in it. But you've also got to put a new Green Goblin. And oh, that Sandman you're doing, go ahead and do that. So we'll put 3 new villains in here. Poor idea. The reboot they went and did had some interesting concepts to it. Like I really liked Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, as Spider-Man. But it was just a miss for me. Like I didn't even see the second one in theaters. I was like, nope, I'll just check it out and rent it later. And it actually wasn't terrible. It just wasn't good.
Well, here's the other thing, though, is I believe that Sony has the rights to the Smurfs, so we could see a crossover.
Oh, I hate you so much right now.
Do they? Now I got to look that up.
I think they do. I'm pretty sure that they were behind the Smurfs movie.
All right, quarter bet right now.
I got to bet that they do. I'll bet you a quarter they do. Canadian quarter.
Oh, so that's like 17 cents.
I'm pretty sure they do. But anywho, let's go ahead and move on to our extra segment while they're trying to figure that out. And we hate to bring up another bad piece of news, but Chris, I'll let you take this one.
Real quick before we get to that news, Sony does have the Smurfs rights, so Steven, you get a Canadian quarter.
Should have gone American. Could have been the new house. Damn it.
So the sad news Steven was talking about, this just came out today. If you were on Twitter, you probably saw that Sir Roger Moore, James Bond, one of the James Bonds, did pass away today. He think he was in 7 Bond movies. He followed up Sean Connery in the role. He passed away at 83, something like that. But it's kind of a sad day. But then you go back and look at it. I hadn't known what he'd done at the end of his career. After he stopped acting as much, he did a lot of work for UNICEF. And he'd done a lot of charitable work in his recent years. So he will be missed, but wow, dude did a ton of charity and I never realized it. I feel bad about it now.
And he was also in Cannonball Run.
He was in Cannonball Run. Yes, he also had a great guest appearance in Chuck, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think he did. I never watched Chuck, but I remember hearing about that. No, it wasn't Chuck, was it?
I thought it was. Regardless, Roger Moore, he was a smooth guy. Like I loved watching him act in different things because he just had like the smooth coolness to him. Not quite like Billy D. Williams, but still pretty cool. And I'm going to pick it up again. I'd been reading his autobiography he released back in 2014, and I took a break from it rather. And it was a very interesting read, hearing about his childhood and his entry into Hollywood. And I'd just gotten to the point where he was on the Bond movies. So I will probably pick that back up again.
Well, then I hope you do. And always sad to see iconic people pass away. It's there's a lot that's been happening lately. It's been hard to see, but
true story.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say about that. Next thing that we're going to talk about here is a follow-up to last week's discussion on the WannaCry crypto. It's the WannaCry ransomware that we spoke about. As you may recall, we talked last week about how there was all sorts of computers being infected by this ransomware. And part of why that was because people were still using Windows XP. That's right. When we podcast last, it was like 2 days after it really had the big outbreak. And there was very much believed that Windows XP was a large portion, to which we all said, why are people still using XP? That's ridiculous. Well, turns out that actually it was not Windows XP that was the big culprit behind the spreading. Kaspersky Labs actually put out some information on this. And what they have found is that, no, it was overwhelmingly Windows 7 that was the culprit behind it. So initial results looked like it was actually XP, a large amount of computers infected, but no, it was actually Windows 7. So yeah, that's interesting to see that change. And I guess that's sort of the importance of remember sometimes preliminary information isn't the most accurate, especially when, all that information came out. It hit on a Friday, and then it was like the weekend came and we got a bunch of information on that. Well, the full spread's not going to happen until the following week. So there you go. It is Windows 7, and I just wanted to correct ourselves now because we were linked that and told that we were wrong. No, we weren't told that we were wrong, but we were linked that. So thank you very much for sending that my way. And Windows 7. It's another reason that you should not be on Windows 7. All right. right. So we have a follow-up to the news point that we actually just talked about, which was the WannaCry ransomware. Now, you might recall that although this version of the ransomware called WannaCry came out last week, ransomware is actually a thing that's been around for many, many years, and one of which was actually called Cryptolocker. In this wonderful virus called Cryptolocker, it did the same thing. If you're not familiar with ransomware, what it does is it locks down your computer, and that's what WannaCry is. That's what Cryptolocker is. It just goes in and encrypts all your files so you can't get it back. And they want you to pay money to get your files back. And we had some experience on the network. Now, I don't want to name names, but we actually have a special guest for this episode who's going to talk a little bit about their experience.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's me.
It's that
Look at
guy
that.
right below me.
Yeah, no, so this is a situation. It's actually Cody Gough was a victim of ransomware. I think it was a year and a half ago, wasn't it, about that?
It was August 2015.
Wow, that was a lot longer than I thought. But okay, so almost 2 years ago. And, it was our first, like, as a network, I think it was our first, at least Chris and SP and I, our first experience dealing with it, like knowing somebody so close to us who had to deal with it. And it was very interesting for me to see the way that you went through it. Now, Cody, I'm going to give you a moment here to talk all about sort of the history, how you got it, and what decision ended up being in front of you.
Yeah, and I believe I'll be able to share my window with people. I've got some screenshots of what the Cryptolocker looked like with my IP and personal information blacked out. So, but what basically happened was I realized that I couldn't access any of my files on my computer. I would just open an MP3, let's say, or a Word doc, and it just would say it's an unrecognized file format. And I don't remember how I found I think there was like one notepad file in basically every folder on my computer, and it said something like instructions. I don't remember exactly where I got it, but I would open it and it would tell me to go to a particular website. So I went to this particular website, and the URL would say your files are encrypted. To get the key to decrypt the files, you have to pay $500. If payment is not made before August 31st, 2015 at 1853, the cost of decrypting files will increase 2 times and will be $1,000 prior to, and then it's got an actual countdown timer with the hours, minutes, and seconds until the amount is increased. And it would say, we present a special software, Crypto Wall Decryptor, which is allowed to decrypt and return control to all of your encrypted files. How to buy Crypto Wall Decryptor. So basically, I had to pay this service $500 in Bitcoin in order to receive the decryption key to return my files. Now, if I didn't pay, of course, the price would double. And if I didn't pay beyond that, then they would delete the decryption key and I would lose access to all of my files forever. So this is not a fun thing. Now, I would have loved to say, oh, my computer was backed up and all my files are backed up and there wasn't anything that important, so I can just kind of reinstall Windows or something, delete all of my files. So, funny story, I had backup software. I use Carbonite online backup. Carbonite's a service, I think it's $60 or $70 a year, and I pay for that. All my files are uploaded to their cloud or whatever, where it's safely stored. For some reason, I had screwed up the settings on Cryptolocker, and by default, it was backing up my C drive. But since I got a new computer and put my old hard drive in this computer and it became the E drive or F drive or whatever, it wasn't backing up that drive. My original hard drive was where I keep most of my files. My C drive was my boot drive, and I've got a couple core files on it, but all of my extended files, my music library, my photos, my recordings of my performances when I played saxophone when I was a music major in college, things like that, I could not restore. And college is expensive.
A little bit.
And
just a little bit.
Having some of those files and my jazz band recordings and my saxophone quartet recitals and things like that was pretty important to me. So I paid the $500. This web page, which I'll share again. I'm not sure how high res it'll be, but I'll share again for those watching. They conveniently give you several options regarding what service you could use. They link you to buying Bitcoins of Western Union or btcdirect.eu or CoinJar or Bittylicious or ZipZap. So there's all these different things. And I then paid. And the screen now I'm sharing, like you can actually see it says, "Thank you for your payment." Well, you're welcome, hackers. You're welcome very much. It says, "Thank you for your payment. We'll give you the opportunity to decipher one file free of charge to make sure the service works, and then you can pay for it." So there's actually an FAQ on the site that says what happened to your files, talks exactly about the encryption method. It links you to a Wikipedia article so you can read what they did. They say, what does it mean? How does this happen? All of your files are encrypted this way. What do I do? Quote, "Alas, if you do not take the necessary measures for the specified time when the conditions for obtaining the private key will be changed, if you really need your data, we suggest you don't waste time. Don't search for other solutions because they do not exist." I did contact a couple cybersecurity firms, and they were going to charge more than $1,000 to run their software to decrypt the files. So they weren't really any help. And after I got the "thank you for your payment" message, it said, "How can I decrypt my files?" There's basically a whole FAQ regarding how to pay. Payment is made successfully. They give you a zip code, and you can unzip it. One complication of my little journey is, and I'll pull this up. Here's one of the really crazy things. I was hit with 2 encryption methods. So what happened was all my files started encrypting. I found wherever the virus was seeded, and I got it out there. But something happened, and it basically restarted itself, which encrypted the other half of my hard drive with a different encryption key. So I paid the $500 and I get this decryption key, and I decrypt half my files and then realize, oh my God, the other half of my hard drive is still encrypted. And do I have to pay another $500 now? Well, check this out. I'm now pulling this up. This is an actual message I sent them. I said, "Hi, I already paid $500, but you gave me 2 sites instead of 1. Can I please get the decrypt file for these keys? I already paid you at this transaction ID," and I sent that to them. Their reply was, "Refresh, please, main page." And they actually gave me the decryption key for the other half of my files.
Wow.
Literally, their customer service was better than Comcast.
Well, that's not saying much because Comcast is the devil.
That's awesome.
Know, right? So it's just insane because the customer service was legitimate. And I say customer service because I was a customer, wittingly or legally or not. And they actually gave me the decryption key to both when they didn't have to. So SP, I'll let you chime in. Yes. And let me tell you the mistake I made. So I actually use AVG free, which I've got a friend who does programming and kind of some cybersecurity stuff for a major company. He actually says AVG free is just as good as or better than some paid services. He swears by it. So I trust him. I figure, all right. What the problem was, and I vaguely recall this happening, is I was cruising websites, something, not really paying attention, and the little Windows pop-up thing says, "Will you allow this thing to make changes to your computer?" Which you get before you open a lot of programs, and not thinking, it just is a reflex to click yes, right? Because 99% of the time, it's because you're installing a new piece of software or a new game on Steam or something like that. So you don't go through the mental work that actually processes what's happening, and you just kind of click yes automatically. And I think that just kind of happened as an auto response, and suddenly I granted it permission like an idiot.
Oops.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Now, I remember this still very clearly from when you had this all happen, because it was like every fiber within like my body was saying, no, Cody, don't pay it. And I remember having a conversation with you and you're like, yeah, I shouldn't pay it. And then you did research and you're like, you know what? Apparently their customer service is excellent. And it made sense, because you lose the possibility of really holding a ransom. If you're screwing people over, you need to have that credibility. You need to say, yes, you pay the money, you will get something back. Because if everybody's getting burned, nobody's going to pay it. So it made total sense. And sure enough, there you go. You ended up getting it back, and you saw their excellent customer service when you accidentally got a second one.
Yeah, it was really good. And now I will say that I do have a external hard drive copy backup of my hard drive that I run once every couple months or so I will not lose anything ever again like that. And I fixed my Carbonate settings. I still have a Carbonate subscription. So, I mean, back up your files, pay attention to what you do.
Yep. I have a local and offsite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that an external soft drive or an external hard drive?
It's real hard.
Okay. That's what I thought.
How big is your external hard drive?
It's rigid and girthy, I'll tell you that.
Oh, it's like I'm listening to Game Life Balance US right now, talking about girthy. Where's your throaty voice? Throaty man-like voice.
Oh man, let's not get into that. One wrinkle in the story that makes it so much more fascinating.
Wait, did you just say one wrinkle after we made the peanut jokes? Did you really just do that?
Yeah, one wrinkle in the hard,
That
rigid
was
drive.
subtle, okay?
Not anymore.
Way to ruin the subtlety, Stephen. Gah.
So back at the time, I don't know much about Bitcoin. I didn't know how it operates. I didn't know how to get it. There's one service that allowed you to get it in a really quick turnaround. Usually purchasing Bitcoin takes a couple business days from most of the methods at the time. But I found one method called Holy Transaction. Holy Transaction. Holy Transaction is just another Bitcoin wallet site, but there are methods using that site to quickly get cryptocurrency. So I quickly got it. I won't go into the details, but basically I had to make a wire transfer from my bank physically and then sign the receipt, take a picture of it and send it to someone. And then I would get the verified transaction, and it worked. It all seems ridiculous, but it worked.
Yeah,
but
just
I
a little
did
bit.
it. I did it, went back to my computer, everything had cleared, and I'm ready to make the transaction. Well, Bitcoin and a lot of these currencies are very, very volatile, which means that the exchange rate changes extremely quickly. So if I go back, I can see that I bought, let's say, 2.3 Bitcoin at the time. That's how much it would have cost. Well, I get back, and suddenly I need to pay 2.55 Bitcoin. Not knowing how Bitcoin works, I don't understand if it needs to be one solid block or if I'm able to take parts of it. Like, I didn't know if I purchased a $20 bill that I can't break, basically. So
and that's a good point, Cody. Sorry to interrupt, but we should clarify here. Bitcoin is a type of currency. It is a type of currency that you can actually look into, and it is becoming more and more a thing. And it is the hacker of choice. 4 out of 5 hackers recommend Bitcoin, and it is something that it is, as he said, very volatile, and it's still very unknown, because you look at it and regular Joe coming in is like, what is this Bitcoin? They have all these questions. And so I just wanted to take this moment to clarify that. Sorry, Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, it is a currency, but it's not officially recognized as a currency by the U.S. government and by certain governments, which means that it doesn't have the same FDIC protections, that it doesn't have the same insurance guarantees and things like that. So for that reason, it's also harder to track and regulate, which is what Stephen was talking about, why it is more popular with criminals. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that you'll pay for on the dark web, which is unindexed websites, basically, to make it a very basic description of it. But this is what people pay on the dark web to buy drugs and to buy hits on people and probably human trafficking and other dark, shady things that I clearly don't support and I'm not okay with. But when that's the only currency they'll accept. But now, I mean, more wholesome places like Amazon accept it. So anyway, so I purchased another couple Bitcoin. So I ended up with 5-ish Bitcoin and paid the amount that I owed, which is 2 point some. So I ended up with about 2.5 Bitcoin. The happy ending comes from the fact that at the time I purchased, the exchange rate for a Bitcoin was about $230 for a Bitcoin. That's what you had to pay. Right now, as of the moment that I'm talking on this podcast, one Bitcoin is about $2,320. So I paid a little over $500 for the Bitcoin the excess Bitcoin I had at the time. Right now, my Bitcoin wallet is about $5,700. So I made back my investment more than tenfold by sheer dumb luck and not understanding what I was doing.
So basically, it's a great investment opportunity, is what you're saying.
In less than 2 years.
Oh, okay. By the way, I should just clarify before Neil gets mad. GonnaGeek nor GonnaGeek Financial Nerf Center recommend giving your money to Cryptolocker as a investment opportunity. We do not recommend that.
So how do you sell Bitcoin? How do you get this $5,700 out?
There are some banks that'll let you do it. Again, I could buy things off Amazon. There are legitimate companies that accept it as a payment method now. Yeah, if I went on Holy Transaction and just posted it to sell, it would be kind of like selling a stock in a way, as far as I understand. I haven't actually tried to sell it, but that there are legitimate methods. There are actually Bitcoin ATMs that are in existence, physical ATMs. There's one in Chicago. They're not many. And again, I don't know exactly how they work, but I could cash out if I wanted to, and probably should, but it has been on a steady upward trajectory for 2 years. If you go to coindesk.com will show you its price over time. And I'm looking at it over time. And in the last 6 months, even in the last 2 or 3 months, it has exploded in value. And I'm just going to hang on to it probably for a little while. If it gets past $10,000, I will definitely withdraw $1,000. So I at least make back what I earned. But I've read stories about people that threw away a USB drive with X number of Bitcoin on it, 5 years ago. And if they had kept that, they would have so much Bitcoin, they would be literally millionaires. So I'm just going to hang on to it and see what happens.
Wow, that's crazy. But I am glad, and I hope it keeps going up for you, because, I really irritated me. Like, I still remember where I was, which parking lot I was sitting in when I was texting you about your like last hour. Oh, I got to get more Bitcoin story. I remember having this conversation, and it stuck with me, and I felt so bad for you, because you're like, I just got to dump money in. I got to get it. And I'm happy to hear that at this point, you're ahead of the game.
It, like I said, really dumb luck. I would, and I don't recommend to everyone as a blanket thing, oh, if you get hacked and someone holds your data hostage, definitely pay them $500. I'm not saying that. I took a risk, a known risk. Like you said, it is kind of like they're not going to get the ransom money if they have a bad reputation. So there is incentive. There's strong incentive for them to actually follow through with releasing your data, and there's no reason for them not to. If they give you $500, if you give them $500, what's their incentive to just say, like, no? There's no reason. It doesn't cost them money to give you the decryption key that they already have. So logically, it makes sense, but I can't guarantee it. No one can guarantee it. You never know. But I just like to share the story, because if for some reason you're not backed up, I mean, really, this should be a cautionary tale. Back up your data and have it backed up somewhere safely. Because even if I had my Carbonite online backup set up properly, who's to say that these new encrypted files wouldn't have just uploaded and overwritten them? So having that external, physical, hard, solid drive that is rigid and delicious physically, we're all holding up our external hard drives. Now Steven's diving over to grab his because Chris and SP, we all have ours within arm's length. But what if a giant magnet drops on your desk? All of us would be screwed. Steven's the only smart one who has it far enough from his desk that if a giant magnet monster descends through the ceiling, Donnie Darko style or whatever, it won't be totally wiped.
Then we just log into our cloud websites and pull all the stuff back down. That's why you need to have, at a bare minimum, 2 different locations you keep your backups in.
Geographically separated. Yep.
Yeah, I gotta say that your whole tale, like, I have not been where, I can't believe it's been 2 years. Okay, first off, I can't believe it's been 2 years. I am still not back to where I wanted to be after hearing your tale, and I'm close. But I want to have the external drive, which I manually update. Like I've actually had this argument with my dad before because he's all into the automated backup. I'm like, okay, but we don't know what happens if somehow they write it so that anything online gets overwritten, right? I'm like, that's why I do a manual. Even if it's once every few months, at least I know I'm only a few months behind, right? So I want that. I want the automated to the cloud, and I want to also set up a little computer somewhere within my computer or within my house that just, is just a backup service. So it's just like, it's basically encrypting, backups and sending them over there. So that's what I want. I want to have those 3 different setups, and I'm close, but not there yet. But thanks for sharing that, Cody. I wasn't sure if you wanted to come on here and talk about it, and I was glad to hear that you wanted to. So thank you very much.
Well, I don't mind now because I made $5,000 from it, which is ridiculous and stupid and shouldn't be a thing that happened. Like I said, the only reason I bought extra Bitcoin is because I didn't understand how it worked. I am extremely lucky and fortunate, and not trying. I'm not. I also don't want to think that you to think I'm just coming on to like brag about it, because it's sheer dumb luck. And but there's some justice there too, right? It's kind of like a little bit justice porn. Oh, these hackers did this terrible thing and extorted $500 out of me. Well, look at me now. I made returns on it. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And hopefully people see it that way. Unless
they made returns on it too.
Oh, that's true. They also made at least $5,000. Okay, yeah. There's.
Welcome to the GonnaGeek.com show where we crush your dreams.
Look, everybody came out ahead on this, right? We all learned lessons. We all learned lessons. We all made money, even the crazy. And I don't know if they were Russian, by the way. They offered their services in several languages, but we'll assume they were Russian because that's what everyone's doing these days.
Well, thank you again, Cody, for sharing that story. It's a heck of a story. I am glad it worked out for you. I think you hit it on the head. People need to, though, take this with a grain of salt because you don't know. What if you're that person that is at the tail end before these hackers get shut down and now nobody has your key, right? Like I actually heard about that last year. There was somewhere that was raided and it held all these keys and they weren't sure because of the raid whether or not people would actually get them back. So I forget what that was, but that could potentially happen. So you got to weigh the pros and the cons, but as Cody said, backup. That's super important.
There was one question in the chat, and it was, do any of these people ever get caught, and if so, the consequences? I did call the FBI office in Chicago, and I was on the phone with them, and they said, honestly, we just don't have the resources to catch these guys. They're very smart and very good at what they do. And he said that they get calls like that pretty regularly. And there's just not a lot they can do. And this was 2 years ago, so it could be different now. But at the time, he just said these guys are really good at what they do.
Well, thanks again, Cody. Either of you have any other questions? Anybody from the chat before we wrap up the show? It's a great, actual person resource here. That was the word I was looking for.
Do you remember the exchange that you purchased the Bitcoin from?
Yeah, I believe it was Holy Transaction.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, the reason for that was because they had a quick turnaround, but there's several out there and there's lots of legitimate ones. But do your research on those two. Make sure there's 2-step authentication because these are major targets of hackers all the time.
That makes sense. Well, thank you very much, Cody, for coming on here today. It was a lot of fun. some good information and some hope for those who might have encountered this and might be debating right now on it. Again, you got to weigh the pros and the cons. It's all up to you. But thanks so much, Cody, for coming on here. And I want to give you a moment here to plug and promote yourself in a better fashion than I did at the beginning of this show.
Oh, God, I have nothing interesting going on. Just my stupid podcast with my stupid co-host, Game Life Dumbness, Poop Ass. No, I do a podcast called Game Life Balance US. It used to be a video game podcast, and I call it a lifestyle podcast, but frankly, no one knows what it's supposed to be or what it's trying to do. So just follow me on Twitter at Producer Cody, where I'm verified, and I tweet hilarious commentary on Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy 15, and other games that start with Final Fantasy.
Could you also do me a favor and list all of the URLs that redirect to your Cody Gough website? I want all of them right now.
I believe SP can do that, actually.
All I know is that you set up verifiedcodygough.com. That's pretty ballsy, man.
Well, yeah, that's me. Ballsy and rigid, etc.
Verified Cody Gough. SP, do you have anything that you want to plug or promote?
Yeah, last week I was on the Ritual Misery podcast, which can be found at ritualmisery.com. It was episode number 128. Amos and Kent had me on. It was a blast. I encourage you to go check that out.
Awesome. Chris, you got anything that you would like to plug or promote? Any jokes you'd like to make?
Actually, I'd like to say if you're a fan of the TV show Arrow, don't forget the season finale is on the 24th of May. As we record this is tomorrow from the day we record live. Don't forget you can swing on over to geeks.live Thursday night and watch SP, Michelle, and I cover the season finale of Arrow. So head on over Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, geeks.live.
Oh, I'll swing with you, all right.
Are you going to swing with me? Or are we going to get like the push swings or a tire swing? What kind of swing are we getting?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like, the tire swing. They're rugged.
I like tire swings.
Yeah, I like the rubber.
SP, they're freaking me out.
I'll just take a moment here to go ahead and plug and promote everything happening on the GonnaGeek Network. You should check that out. There's a lot of great podcasts on there, but there is some great written content also. So please check it out. That's GonnaGeek.com. Lots of cool stuff happening over there. And Cody Gough assures me that if you listen to the next episode of Game Life Balance US Live, which is usually at Geeks.live on Tuesdays, well, if he sees you in the chat, he will give you a thumbs up on camera. He guaranteed me that personally.
I do remember doing that.
Wait a minute.
That's right.
He has thumbs? I thought he didn't have opposable thumbs.
No, I got 2 thumbs and this guy.
For episode 193 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, I'm talking on an Audio Technica BP40.
And I'm SP, talking on an Electro Voice RE320.
Oh, I have no idea what I'm using. SP told me to buy it. That's all that matters. And I'm Cody Gough.
And I'm Chris Ferrell asking, where's the strippers I was promised?
Bye.
Oh, it's Audio Technica.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review in iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@GonnaGeek.com. You can find our entire archive at GonnaGeek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the GonnaGeek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. This show was produced and edited by Stephen Jondrew of GonnaGeek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.